Empire is a system that wages war on humanity on all possible fronts, in economy, finance, politics, and science. It destroys, steals, murders, decapitates, and even demands depopulation. It presently steals from society in ever greater bursts of madness and financial trickery, which, to keep the process going, legalizes the crime itself in order that the crime won't be arrested, whereby empire continues to be able to exist. This is what illustration B is all about. Empire and decapitation is one, and this one is the most nearly infinite crime against the future. The chart illustrates the functioning of the system of empire, a monetarist empire, a vast empire of private money estates that exist typically for the single purpose of looting ever more wealth from society. The result is a process of economic decapitation. The decapitation of finance and politics are but auxiliaries for it, together with the decapitation of science. Since the empire's wealth is stolen, instead of having been created by it, empire has extracted from the golden goose the very power that has made the golden goose creative and productive, which is the physical economy of society where all real wealth is produced. However, by this process, the stolen loot becomes itself meaningless, which is a claim against what the golden goose creates and produces, that increasingly adds up to zero. That's where we stand today. Illustration B describes the current empire world system, a decapitated system, a system of thievery that has collapsed the world and itself with it to the point of the near disintegration of everything. All the wars that were ever fought, and those presently threatened against Iran, Syria, North Korea, and so on, and ultimately against Russia, China, and India, have at their root the lootings that empire requires to draw ever more fresh blood that it pours onto the corpse of the system that is already dead, which nothing in the world can revive. Illustration A presents the opposite. It illustrates the functioning of natural economics, the real wealth-creating platform, a development platform on which society truly becomes rich in living to the point that the concept of wealth no longer has any meaning. On this platform, a nation creates itself whatever financial credits are needed to produce the infrastructures for its living, and to develop them in the most efficient manner possible. These infrastructures include farming, housing, transportation, industries, healthcare, education, culture. These are the engines for creating a richer and fulfilling life, as they produce the richest renaissance of all times, a renaissance so powerfully creative and productive that we can snap the Ice Age and say to it, "Where is your sting?" The illustration A illustrates the original American system of economics. It was pioneered before the USA was even thought of, back in the mid-1900s, in the days of the Bay Colony of Massachusetts. The colonists needed to build an ironworks for making farm equipment. Instead of begging from the money bags of the British king, they issued a credit to themselves in the form of a scrip that became their money for building the ironworks. The scrip became valuable by the products that were produced and by the richer farming that was thereby enabled. The credit system that was pioneered by the Bay Colony illustrates the future of humanity. The credit system is a system free of empire, a full-blooded, non-decapitated economic system. Credit may take different forms, but it will always be a credit in principle for the development of society. The best illustration of the nature of economics is of course found in the operation of the universe itself, where economics is a process of dynamics. Let me present to you the humble hydrogen atom, the smallest atom in the universe. It has at its center a single proton that serves as its nucleus, which is surrounded by a single electron that is itself 1,000 times smaller than the proton. The two parts carry a complementary electric charge, whereby they attract each other by the electric force. However, they cannot collide because at very close distances the two particles repel each other by another principle. In this dynamic interplay, the electron, which has 50 times less mass than the proton, is drawn into an endless dance around the proton that is forming a shell defined by its dance. What results from this is significant. The shell created by the dance gives the atom its shape, and the shape of it, in the case of the hydrogen atom, is 65,000 times larger than the sum of the two parts that construct it. That's the nature of the type of economic process that the universe itself is built with. The universe uses two tiny particles and invests a significant amount of energy into its productive processes to get the dynamic dance started. Once the resulting construct is produced by the interplay of energy and creative principles, the resulting product is 65,000 times larger than its parts. This is the nature of the universe's basic economic gain. In order to illustrate to yourself how big this gain is, which cannot be drawn in scale, I invite you to compare the single proton that is at the center of the hydrogen atom with a large grapefruit. Its minuscule dance partner, the electron that swirls around it, which is 1,000 times smaller, would on this scale be comparable to a grain of table salt. On this scale, the real nature of economics comes to light, because the shell that becomes defined by the dance of the grain of table salt would be comparable in size on this scale to Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth. That's an amazing economic gain. The universe uses two particles comparable to a grapefruit and a grain of salt and creates a dynamic construct with it that is comparable to Mount Everest. This amazing creative process is the process of real economics, in which the entire visible universe literally is produced. Well, we are still a long way off in matching the universe and its economic gain. The principle is nevertheless the same in our case, and we are progressing along this line. The new industrial revolution that is based on the use of basalt would bring about in automated high-temperature industrial processes, for example, free universal high-quality housing that would so uplift the living condition of society that a broad-based intellectual renaissance would unfold that would uplift civilization in a completely new level to powers of its self-development and expressions not seen before. The credit put into this system might well result in a 65,000-fold gain for society. The gain thereby becomes so huge that the concept of credit becomes disassociated from the concept of repayment. The repayment then is found in the value of what is produced. The comparison that is presented here is intended to open the door to understanding the principle of created value. The outcome of the dynamics of the created process is the value of it. If no energy was invested into the economic process of the universe for its atom building, not a single atom would exist, and consequently the universe we behold would not exist. This means that the universe that resulted from the creative process is of immense value, that is defined by its existence, because without it, the cosmos would be an empty void. The created value is therefore as immense as the value of the universe itself, because nothing would exist without the energy and the principles being invested into the creative process that produces a product of value. In this context, the universe is a product of great value. Its existence is its value. Of course, this simple creative process isn't quite enough for the universe to express its vast potential. Creating hydrogen atoms would be enough to create a sun. Every sun is deemed to be a giant ball of hydrogen. Also, a few of the gas giants of the outer planets of our solar system would exist, which are largely made up of hydrogen. However, if this was all there was, the universe would be a dull place. Naturally, the universe didn't stop at its economic process with building merely hydrogen atoms. It created higher-level principles which manifested into its economic process, enabled the production of impressive arrays of larger atoms, more than 100 different types in all, which have been created thereby. With these, the universe created itself a qualitative uplift in expression, with a corresponding uplift in value. Still, the universe didn't leave it with that. It created itself still more high-level principles, which it invested into its economic process, that thereby expanded in leaps and bounds. The universe did this in the form of creating principles for joining the basic atoms into molecules that form vast chains of atoms all strung together into a wide variety of ever more complex arrangements. With these added principles invested into the process, the quality of the universe became immensely expanded. The added principles enabled a near-infinite uplift of the diversity, complexity, and creative freedom of the universe itself. The resulting uplift is of course reflected in the effective value of the thereby created universe. The resulting value is thereby correspondingly increased. It is reflected in the infinite variety of worlds upon worlds that came to be, which would otherwise not exist. With the process further expanded, with still more higher-order principles being invested into the economic process of the universe, life was enabled to unfold. The produced result added still another increment of value to the economic product that the universe itself is. The resulting miracle of value that we call life gives the economic process a near infinite value. The resulting value is immensely great because any world without life in it is a dull and drab place. The universe appears to be designed to invest ever more of itself in terms of energy and principles to always advance its creative potential. It invests immensely on this platform and gains immense value by doing so. It keeps on investing in itself, in its creative process, whereby it gains ever greater value without any limits in sight. We ourselves are evidence of that. We may see ourselves as standing at the pinnacle of the creative process of life, while in real terms we represent but another unfolding step on the creative scale. We stand today as human beings with vast capabilities and with vast future potentials. Thus, in universal terms, the human being represents the greatest value ever created to date, to as far as our vision can reach. Humanity has become a creator in itself, a creator of culture, music, technologies, science, art, literature. The human being has thereby become the supreme product of the universe and an economic producer of value itself. Nothing is greater in this of greater value than the human being in the universe, for as far as we have been able to explore it. Humanity has by its very being and its own economic and cultural self-development accelerated and expanded the creative economic process of the universe. Without the human being becoming active in the universe, the Earth could have spun on its axis for 10 more billions of years, and what you see here before you would not have been created to exist. But with the human being added to the economic process, the miracle that you see before you has been created by humanity with relative ease by the simple investment of a few years of work, a few resources, and a bill of financial credits to get the job done. Since the human being is a product of great value, it is inherent in the human economic process to nurture and protect its value by creating ever more resources for its living. The human being is evidently the greatest asset that a society has. It becomes a form of extreme waste, therefore, not to protect, develop, and nurture this asset that is of such great value in itself, for its creative, scientific, technological, and productive potential. Unemployment, poverty, slum living, sickness, poor education, decapitated science are all examples of an extreme criminal waste of the human potential that is blocking even now the renaissance that humanity would otherwise have created for itself. It is a crime against the future to let the greatest item of value that a society has to diminish and not to protect it against the new ice age that is already on the horizon, for which the transition has already begun. In order to meet its needs for protecting and developing itself, to have a future, society needs to give itself the financial credits to enable its creative and productive power to becoming realized. For this, it needs to develop high-quality housing, accessible to all, with no strings attached, and high-quality education, science, healthcare, technologies, and industries. If society is the highest element of value in the known universe, then no investment will ever be too expensive for the further development of this value, because in this value rests the greatest economic resource and creative power that has ever existed on the face of our planet. When the approaching ice age requires that all the northern agriculture needs to be relocated onto floating modules strung across the equatorial sea, then whatever credit is required to get the job done will be cheap in comparison with the value derived as society assures thereby its continued existence. And an advancing civilization, that's how the real economic system works, that is inherently a credit-based system. When society recognizes that it needs to create a world development engine, the question then won't be, how much will it cost? The question will then be, what resources do we require to get the job done? The needed resources will then be credited. Society will get its payback in terms of what comes out of the process. At this point, credit may no longer be called money. It may then have a different name. The entire process will then be determined by what comes out of it for society. The return of credit will reflect, in principle, the dynamics of the universe. When the universe constructs an atom, it creates a structure that is typically 100,000 times bigger than what the universe has put into the building process. Whatever energy the universe requires for it is created and put into the process by it, or else the universe would not exist. Thereby, the greatest investment is justified. This is how we need to look at meeting the Ice Age challenge. We can meet the challenge with the physical resources that we have presently at hand. We can build the infrastructures if we rouse ourselves to invest the effort. The outcome will be that we continue to live and have a rich civilization of great value. If we fail, of course, humanity dies, and all that we call value falls back to the level of zero. The building of the World Bridge project with floating agriculture and floating cities falls into this category. The bridge can be built right now, made of basalt, shaped in high-temperature automated industrial processes for which extremely small amounts of human labor are actually involved. The same process can also produce complete housing modules. They can be produced with so little effort that they can be given away to each other for free to meet everyone's human need, which in turn creates an infrastructure for more powerful forms of living with increased scientific and cultural development. We will need this type of scientific development to create the kind of agriculture that is productive under a dimmer sun or becomes immensely productive in indoor environments, or both. The universal criterion for a 100,000-fold gain from credit will be easily accomplished on this type of development platform. Since we also need water to green the Sahara Desert, the little feat can be accomplished with ease by simply diverting the outflow of the Amazon River and the Congo River via a network of arteries made of woven basalt fibers laid across the oceans. Water flowing in water is the most widely applied water conveyance technology in nature in the form of ocean currents. Fresh water can be conveyed with the same ease in arteries afloat in the oceans. The gain over credit that results from the process of bringing water to the Sahara will be so great that it cannot even be measured. Indeed, How can one measure the value of humanity that an Ice Age renaissance enables to exist in an Ice Age world? If the building of floating agriculture along the equator is the investment necessary for it, no matter how big this credit investment would be, the gain would still be infinite in value. The natural system is so primitive in an Ice Age environment that only 10 million people survived the last one. We can stop this impotence. With a relatively small credit investment, humanity's power for living can be expanded 1,000-fold, even in an Ice Age. That's the nature of credit economics. That's the opposite to decapitated economics. Modern China, and also Russia to some degree, are beginning to lean in the direction of this principle. This, of course, is the reason why these nations are being targeted for destruction by the masters of empire. There is a principle associated with stepping away from the decapitated world of empire, a principle that offers a new life. Heaven is expensive. Nothing comes from nothing. The credit principle can only be reflected in an active process. Those who value life are willing to pay the price. They expend whatever effort it takes to advance the sovereign self-development of society to the utmost, as should all mankind in all times, especially now that we are challenged to survive war, economic collapse, artificial energy crises, artificial food crises, housing crises, political crises, and the coming Ice Age transition. We can break the train of poverty of endless crises of decapitated living by meeting the Ice Age imperative head-on, which is ultimately a human imperative. The typical current response to the Ice Age imperative is that its challenge cannot be met. The money cannot be raised to build the infrastructures that are needed. Who will put up the kind of money that is needed for a project for universal world development? What will be the profit that can be made? And so on. And so we ask the wrong questions, don't we? The questions that should be asked should be focused on how we must proceed to get the job done that civilization requires, and to do it in a manner that produces the greatest amount of benefit possible. That's how real economic questions are asked. When society needs money for its self-development, it doesn't need to go to the bags that are tied to the past. It only needs financial credits that are credits against the future, and these any society can create for itself as a commitment to its future. Giving financial credit to itself is society's self-acknowledgement that it is an asset of great value, with the power to create a future. In contrast, going a-begging to the moneybags of empire has the opposite effect. It places value in the past. This is a form of self-denial. When society is giving financial credits to itself, it unlocks its power for self-development that it understands it has. It is society's acknowledgement of itself. An Ice Age renaissance can only be built on this type of platform. The universe does the same. It doesn't go to an external source for power for its self-creative productive economics. It has the power within itself. It is flush with electric energy and plasma that pervades the entire cosmos and powers it. The cosmos is flush with electric energy, which is the most powerful form of energy there is, and it is flush with a vast array of creative principles. These together give the universe the enabling credit to manifest itself in products of great value. The question then that pertains to us is how we must proceed to get our self-development done on the same platform that credits the future. Civilization is the product of human development. A renaissance unfolds when this development is advanced in the most powerful and efficient manner, whereby ever greater elements of value are created. In a credit society renaissance, the question will no longer be asked how much money we must spend to uplift civilization. The question will instead be asked, how many opportunities do we give ourselves to spend money on as a means for uplifting the quality of civilization? The more credit we create on the development platform, which comes back to us 1,000-fold, or 65,000-fold as the universe has pioneered as a minimal standard, the richer and more productive human living will become. The real breakout, therefore, that we need lies rooted in ourselves. So how long will we want to wait till we feel the time is right to start the greatest renaissance of all times? Meeting the greatest challenge brings the greatest rewards. Why should we want to cheat ourselves by holding back on building the richest civilization of all times, with free universal housing to advance human development, with limited food resources, and boundless anti-atomic energy resources? Why wouldn't we want to build this renaissance right now, which is the human thing to do, which would also give us the power to snap the ice age in the flow of our self-development? What are we waiting for? We have no reason to wait for anything when the greatest renaissance is as easily created as it promises to be.